as they laid out all the different possibilities, you got a sense that no one in power is having the intellectual conversation, intelligent conversation these guys are having about what is the way to rescue the deal, what is the way to rescue, forget the deal, the relationship, and to make sure that there is no war. Like, even if you think the deal is a bad one, which no one who knows anything about the Middle East thinks it is, other than the ones who actually want to go to war, right? But even if you thought that, how do you rescue the situation so there's no conflict? Because presumably, if you're sitting at home and you're not a neocon, you don't want more war, presumably. And in that situation, you have these folks talking about, well, the deal was almost as good as we could possibly get. And it did everything that we wanted. It got rid of the nuclear energy program of Iran. They were in total compliance. The IAEA says, the International Atomic Energy Agency said, yeah, they're in 100% compliance. Our own government says they're in compliance. Even Mattis, the defense secretary, and Pompeo, now the Secretary of State, says Iran was in compliance. So no one is saying that Iran was not. We broke the deal. But the reason it was depressing is because, and they noted it at the end as well, is because you got a clear sense that there's a lot of people invested in the right wing, both here and in Israel and in Saudi Arabia, in war. And that is not the bug, that is the feature. That is what they want. It's not like, oh golly gee, we found a path where we couldn't avoid war. No, that's the whole point. The reason why I had a little bit of hope and is a little bit broader, right? So Bernie Sanders does these town halls. This is the third one, he's gonna do more. They're so earnest. He brings in the top experts and they have a conversation. If you're a person who cares about that topic, you love it. I learned, now this is a topic I know a ton about, and I learned 4 different things here that I want to talk more about in a little bit, that I was like, oh, that's interesting, I didn't know that, right? And if you are not well versed in the topic, you would have learned an enormous amount of information that is really useful. But I get it. People can look at it and go, oh, that's a little dry. They're having a conversation where people are not screaming at each other, right? It's not interrupted by commercial breaks, and no one's screaming, even in their scenario, even though they're very, very concerned, nobody's screaming about Trump, right? They just had a conversation about what's the right thing, the wrong thing to do. So why am I encouraged by that? Because that guy, Senator Sanders, is so damn earnest that I really believe the American people will be able to see it. I think that the next time, if he is in the election, all the other slick politicians are like, oh no, they're gonna see how many people are in the room. I wanna make sure there's enough media. I wanna make sure about this and this. Bernie's like, let's just bring 4 really smart, educated people about this topic and let's just talk about it. Everyone else in Washington thinks that's crazy. But I think the American people are gonna look at that and go, man, that dude's honest, man. And he's trying. Even if I don't agree with everything he's saying, he's trying to find the right answer. No one in their right mind could have seen that town hall and thought, oh, Bernie's got a bad intent. He's desperately trying to get the peace, and he's bringing smart people to do that. So I really hope you're not missing any of these. We're covering all of them, and I just think that they're doing amazing work in giving you some of the facts, and we'll dive into those too.
Yeah. I commend you for having a lot of faith in the American people. Maybe one day I will also join you in that position. But there's all sorts of shady games that are played, and regardless of how earnest he is, we know how things typically play out during an election. We already experienced it in 2016, but that doesn't mean I have no hope. With that said, though, these types of intellectual discussions get brushed off as elitists, who have no real grasp of what reality is, and
that's hilarious.
No, but it's true. I mean, that's what we heard over and over again during the last election. You try to talk about the issues and have a fact-based discussion, and you're brushed off as an elitist. So that's the frustrating thing. And it seems as though it doesn't matter how much The Trump administration lies about issues, including, the Iran nuclear deal, which, as you mentioned perfectly, was a perfectly fine deal. They were complying. Doesn't matter how much the Trump administration lies about what the reality is. People buy into that lie. People think that Iran is a threat. And I think that it's likely that we'll go to war because, again, that is the feature, not the bug. And what I'm concerned about is not only the war, but also the aftermath of that war, right? So the potential refugees that will come out of that war, where are they gonna go? There's already displacement because of all the other wars that are going on in the Middle East. And so on one hand, you have people who agree with Trump arguing that we need regime change in Iran. Oh, look at all these people being oppressed. And then once those oppressed people are looking for safety because of a war-torn country, oh, look at those terrorists. We can't allow them into our country, right?
Yeah, well, we saw that movie in Syria. We saw the catastrophe that happened in Iraq. And again, Iran is 4 times larger than Iraq. So wait till you get a load of the Iran war if it goes in that way. And then there is the domestic side of that equation where they will use the war as an excuse to crack down on all dissent. Well, this guy is against the government in time of war. He's speaking out and saying it's our fault. We got to lock him up.
Yeah.
You think they won't do that?
Yeah, I'm pessimistic about the whole thing. First of all, what Bernie said early on is that people that are concerned about domestic policy, he said a lot of you are concerned about domestic policy, you might not be paying attention to this. And unfortunately, in everyone's day-to-day lives, we're so busy, we're running around, and people aren't following everything. Today, I personally, I'm always on the news, but I had a busy day, and I wasn't really following the killings with the opening of the embassy until later in the afternoon. Now, imagine if you have a busy life and you're not paying attention to stuff. So what do you listen to? You listen to Donald Trump saying, "Iran deal, worst deal ever. This is a bad deal. They're terrorists. They're on the travel ban." Et cetera, which, by the way, the irony that this man says that I'm opposed to the government, but I'm gonna ban the people that wanna come here from coming. So I'm doing this for the people of Iran, to help the people of Iran because I wanna overthrow your government, but I won't let you come to America, which is also very hypocritical. Right. And I, as an Iranian, I get a lot of flack from a lot of people on the right who wanna overthrow the Iranian government. And I always start my statements, I go, I am opposed to the Islamic Republic of Iran as the leadership and what they're doing. I know there's a lot of human rights violations, there's a lot of women's rights violations, all kinds of stuff that this government, my family fled Iran because of the people that are in power now. So I'm opposed to the current government, but I don't support war with this country because I know that war with this country means there's going to be a lot of innocent Iranians killed and there's going to be Americans killed. But again, we never hear the numbers of the Iraqis killed. We don't hear about the mess that's going on in Iraq. And just right now, just today with the elections they had, the Muqtada al-Sadr who gets voted for isn't even the guy that we want. So it's what if it goes that way? What if we overthrow this current regime and it goes to another hand of a group that we don't want? So it's a messy situation, and it's just to sit back and hear Trump say these things, and like you said before, there doesn't seem to be a plan. And the fact that, let's say, even the other thing, John Bolton, who was behind the Iraq plan as well, how does he even get a job anymore?
Right, exactly.
How did that guy not fail the biggest failure in American foreign policy? How does that guy get a job? And now he's being an architect of leading us into this next war possibly without plan B, which is how they sold us on the Iraq war. They said, oh, they're gonna open up their arms, it's gonna be clean. It wasn't clean, it's messy, it's dirty, and that will be the same thing with the war with Iran.
Maybe this is too pessimistic, maybe even conspiratorial, but I don't think that Bolton and people who agree with Bolton saw Iraq as a mistake. I think that they saw it as a huge success and continue to see it as a success. Why do we go to war? Why are we intervening in situations abroad? We don't do it because we want to spread democracy. We don't do it because we genuinely care about regime change or helping those who are oppressed. We do it because we make money off of doing it. Yeah. And when I say we, I don't mean the American middle class. I'm talking about the weapons manufacturers and that military industrial complex. That's why we keep going in, we keep screwing things up, because we want to be in perpetual war.
The rest of us, including Trump during the campaign, said the Iraq war was a disaster. But for the defense contractors, it wasn't. Their stocks went soaring. and then they got contracts and they made even more money. For the oil companies, instability in the Middle East creates wonderful profits for them because their costs remain the same, relatively the same, but their revenue goes way up, and instability in the Middle East causes oil prices to go up. So they also made untold billions of dollars from the war in Iraq. So what looks like a disaster to us was a boom for a lot of people. And so in this town hall, one of the things that I learned is apparently a talking point they're putting out in DC, and that most of the town believes, which is unreal, is that since the Saudis are on our side and Israel's side, that they will convince the Palestinians just to lie down, and that everything will be. And the Palestinians say, oh well, if the Saudis say it, then we won't revolt, we won't do anything. I mean, how could anyone say that with a straight face? Like the Palestinians would give a damn what the Saudi royalty thinks when they're suffering under enormous poverty and oppression. Why the hell would they care what a Saudi prince thinks? But that thought, which is so mental, is apparently the majority opinion in Washington. That's so crazy, I can't fathom it. And you get yourself to believe insane thoughts like that if you're incentivized, oftentimes financially, to go in a certain direction. In this case, a lot of people in Washington make a ton of money from those wars, including the lobbyists, et cetera. Another fact I learned from there that I had not considered before is that Gazans have never seen, most Gazans, the overwhelming majority, have never seen the West Bank. They've never seen Jerusalem. Now I know, and I tell you all the time, it's an open air prison, you can't leave, and we saw it today. If you go to anywhere near the border, you're shot and killed. That's it, period, right? So that's worse than a prison. In prison, they might actually tell you to stop. They might take a couple of precautions. They might come in with handcuffs. This is a prison that executes anyone that goes near the wall, right? So I know all that, but for whatever reason, it didn't compute for me that, yeah, of course they've never been to Germany, they've never been to the US, they've never been anywhere like that, but they've never even been to the West Bank, which is where the other Palestinians live, because they're not allowed to go anywhere near the border. Only a tiny, tiny percentage of people can get a permit through a great number of loopholes that they have to, not loopholes, but regulations that they have to jump through. So they've never seen the outside world other than through TV. And one of the points they drove home tonight was, how long can you do this to people before it blows up?
Right.
And so one of the panelists said, look, I got family members in the Israeli Defense Forces. One of them is a sniper. I love Israel. I want that Israel to be safe. And Bernie, bless his heart. I mean, we often forget that and overlook that the biggest fighter for the Palestinians in this country and for peace and justice for both sides is a Jewish American, Bernie Sanders. So and keep that in mind next. Like sometimes I see the comment section and I see the anti-Semitism and it drives me crazy. Bernie's the only one fighting for justice in Washington in this. Not the only one, but one of the few and certainly the champion of it, right? So, but all those people on that panel, they want what's good for Israel. They want what's good for the Palestinians. But if you want what's good for Israel, building a giant powder keg is not it. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.